patiently, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome to the stage Dr. Seemee Ali. Seat of your choice. I've traditionally started sitting in the swing. Continued tradition. I think if we could start just the discussion about, since the Persians is unique in that it was the only Greek tragedy that was about contemporary events for the Greeks, as opposed to mythological scenarios. So what was the world like at the time of this first production of the Festival of Dionysus?
So first, let me say that I'm not a historian, and as I would tell my students, ask me anything about fiction, and I will also give you fictional answers to questions about history. But about the world that Aschylus inherits, the imaginative world, what I can say with some authority is that he, as you pointed out, he talks about, he's entering into a sacred space in the theater of Dionysus. Can everybody hear me? I'm also
it's
not
hard
a professional.
over here. Sorry.
Okay, so
Move your chairs back a little, please. 6 inches.
how about this? I'll try to project. Maybe if I stand, you can hear me better. So, Aschylus is staging this play at a festival of the god Dionysus. Dionysus' sufferings are the origins of the tragic theater. So he is the god who is dismembered. He is the god who is the youngest of the gods. And he is the god who somehow represents human suffering more than any other god and experiences it more than any other god. Aschylus himself fought at the battle that is depicted here. And like Sophocles, he was not a stranger to war. He participated in war. And there's not that separation between, the intellectual and the veteran, as we might imagine today. He fought in the war, and there are moments when the messenger so powerfully describes what he has seen, and it sounds like Aschylus himself is telling us what he has seen and is absorbing that in the way that a veteran might. It's worth noting that in terms of military literature, all Greek literature is war, music in some way. What I'm most struck by, and I'm a regular, I'm a groupie at this point. What I'm most struck by is the purgation of fear and pity. So much, much later than Aschylus, a guy named Aristotle comes along. He's watched these plays. He probably was not alive when the Persians was staged, but he sort of offers an interpretation of tragedy. And he says tragedy creates catharsis. So what is catharsis? It's a term that comes from grooming horses, cleansing brushing off the debris from their manes. The purgation of, I was about to say peer and pity, but what I really mean is fear and pity. And there is something about this performance and every performance of the Persians I've seen that sort of arouses this incredible pity for all of the characters on the stage who are being viewed in Aeschylus's time by their enemies. And so we're watching and feeling pity for the enemy. I think the fear is that we ourselves could be that enemy at any moment. and I do think Aschylus has a prophetic sense of what's going to happen to Athens, that it too will become an empire, and it too will experience devastating losses. So that's my quick enough answer.
Wonderful. The cast. I'd also like to point out the gentleman sitting next to Marianne, Robert Winn. He's our set designer. Well, moving on from this, do you have any questions for Dr. Ali or Cass or any of us? I believe Caroline Vaney, the director, is she here? She's not here.
I saw her.
Okay, well, she was here. She escaped.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm wondering if it's possible to imagine that Aschylus was reminding himself of Homer's great empathy for the Trojans
Yes.
and for the terrible suffering that the Greeks had inflicted on them, specifically Hector and his wife and children.
It's true, Dr. Ali brought up Homer, I think, at one of our previous discussions, but yes, it's very much in the tradition of the Iliad and the hells of war. Some people have called it an anti-war statement. I don't know. I don't know if they had that concept in the ancient world. I mean, I think they felt they were eternally in war. That was just a way of life. Like you were saying, all of Greek history is war.
All of history.
All of history. Yeah, we're going to mend that. All of history.
I guess, just first of all, I want you to know who's asking this question. So this is Barnaby Fitzgerald, a great artist who grew up with a translator of the Iliad and the Odyssey, his father, Robert Fitzgerald. So you know these epics well. But when I was thinking in particular of a moment in the Odyssey when Odysseus is weeping, he's watching the reenactment of the invasion of Troy, and he's asked for this song to be sung on his homecoming voyage, and he weeps like one of the people he himself probably beat, a woman who is being beaten by warriors as her husband dies in front of her, and she's being dragged away into slavery. Those are the tears that Odysseus sheds, we're told in a simile. So Homer is certainly informing Aeschylus, and I don't know of any more sensitive or profound reader of Homer than Aeschylus.
I think it's worth noting too that Aeschylus, in addition to being a playwright and a soldier, was also an actor and actually acted in the original production of this play. And the play is noteworthy for adding other actors to a chorus. So that was a new thing. It was usually just the chorus chanting the story of the play. Here you have other characters, the queen, the messenger, and Xerxes. But it's worth noting what we know of that original production is that Aeschylus performed the role of the herald, and that most of the play was chanted or sung, except for that when the herald comes to tell about the battle, that was spoken. And I think that was probably a new thing on the ancient Greek stage too.
The harmony of the actors, it was otherworldly and it was quite beautiful. But may I make a comment, please? The pain, the sorrow, and the hurt, and the dread of it all. I could feel from the amphitheater, the audience, that subliminal chortle within this. We didn't get vanquished on that time. And that's the human condition. The horror. Artie and I turned to each other and said, nothing's changed. It's all
Yeah.
it is.
Well, it's worth, I guess, noting that the original audience were all Greeks, and they were probably having that same feeling. Yeah.
So could I add something? The sin of hubris is the sin against symmetry.
I'm sorry, the sin against.
Symmetry.
And Apollo is the god of symmetry. When hubris takes over a nation or a person, that person, that nation will be counterbalanced by the power of symmetry.
Symmetry is a spiritual
As a spirit.
force, you're saying.
I have a question. In the script I read, Darius was a character like the messenger, like Xerxes. You know, another single male, not terrifically large character. And when I saw that there was no Darius in the cast, I was going, how are they solving that? And I thought using the chorus to all become Darius was really wonderful.
That was Carlin
I figured that had to be
Vaney's,
Carlin. I thought it was really brilliant.
and it was a way to activate the chorus.
Yes,
One of the
because-
problems with Greek tragedy is the chorus becomes rather static, and so it's a way to activate them, and they take on more dimension that way.
Yeah, I thought it was a really brilliant choice and worked just beautifully. I really loved
It's
that.
a possession. The idea.
Yeah, that sort of possession, exactly.
Can I ask the actors, who were amazing again, does this feel distant to you? I mean, or does it feel present to you to enact so energetically the delivery of this terrible news, to be the recipient of this terrible news, to be the mother of a failed king? Does it feel very far away? Because you make it feel so real.
Yeah.
I think this is just the sort of the essence of what it is that we do, which is to sort of translate something that might seem obscure or distant and sort of literally bring it to life. And I know throughout this rehearsal process, and then obviously performing it in front of an audience, it feels energetic, and I feel that we're all really engaged in the narrative, but also in the history, and obviously this beautiful set just kind of gives us that kind of perspective. It puts us in this place. But I'm so glad to get to do this play, because it really is. Obviously more than just a bucket list, but it's the idea of such an ancient piece that doesn't get performed often. And I think the fact that we are all here alive and breathing this piece for this period of time, I think it preserves it for the now and also for the future. I mean, we have done this together.
Yeah, here.
Yeah.
Community grieving, that it feels very cathartic to actually go through it, which is a weird thing to say about this particular story. But the adaptation was written in response to 9/11 and
And the invasion of Iraq
Right.
in 2002,
so that is kind of an undercurrent in the script anyway, but there has been so much to grieve on a national level, on a personal level, I think, for all of us. And I think every audience member is bringing their own grief that may or may not have been confronted. I mean, we grieve so many life plans, that didn't go the way we intended, that we, to be able to come together and have a place for that grief to go is, I think, a function of the production that was an unexpected gift.
Oh, are we going down the line? No, I don't have any. You guys said it all.
Yes.
So knowing that in Greek theater, it's in a wide open space, it's outside. I find it profound that this is being done in a basement. and because the containment of the pain and the sorrow and the grief that's there, that's the kind of thing that heart is based in our heart that we carry. And I find it more profound here than it would be in a quiet space.
Yeah, there's, intimacy is an aspect that the Undermain has always given us, and it's great to be able to explore works like these, and like you're saying, in a more intimate setting.
So your expression of light and the dark, that's, to me, that's what we're doing right here. That's what we saw tonight. We saw a little spotlight on the darkness of a thing that continues in humanity. We've seen it all over the world. War just keeps going. We never stop.
Yeah, that's one thing we didn't want to. I had this conversation with Carl then, but I said, let's not put it in modern dress, because then we're going to be drawing specific analogies, and I think it's important for the intelligence of the audience to come into play and draw your own analogies. There are plenty of them being drawn in this very moment, and this was not the world as it was several years ago when we chose the play. But it's.
I love the map and the way the herald went all over the map and took us. Because I studied Greek history, but it was a long, long time ago. And so the names were familiar, but watching him move across the stage and getting the scope of the journey that they all were taking coming back.
I think that, Robert Winn had the great idea.
Kudos to Robert Winn and to Carolyn for doing that. It was great.
I have a question. So, in a lighter way, when you got the whole production was so powerful because of so much energy and the contortions of the body and all of that. So, at rehearsals, did you all have separate practices for just doing exercises or workouts or what? Because everyone was doing, like, somebody jumped straight through that, somebody went up that. So what was the?
I will tell you that on day one, Carlin challenged all of us by getting us up on, like, after we did our read through, by getting us up on our feet and improvising sort of different tableaus that were expressions of the stages of grief, and we sort of took our tableaus individually, and then we got into groups of two, and, like, sort of how can we add this thing that you did to this thing that she did, and so there was a kind of a organic improvisation around how to create these things. I've seen it done where in other productions where they would take tableaus from art, they would look at art history and try to but these were all just came from the imaginations of the actors, and she really pushed us to, and it was a challenge for me, for sure.
So the very beginning of the show, when we're in that, and there's that little 30-second piece was a culmination and combination of a lot of things that we all came up with, and then at various times in the show, we'd say, "Oh, we're doing this," and Carlin would say, "Think of one of the movements that we came up with. Do that while this music is playing, as we mixed it with the music. Do this, and this is what I want. Now, wait for this part. As the music fades out, you stop, or you're frozen, or this," and that's how it was very organic. And speaking to that organic thing, when we did the possession initially, we thought to do it with a recorded voiceover, where we would just be mouthing the voice. But when we did it, it didn't fit with everything else that we had done. Because everything else is organic, everything else is us.
Right.
You know, yes, we have sound, but everything else that's coming from the stage was us. So we heard it and we were kind of like, Carolyn was like, nah. So.
One instance where it wasn't organic and physical was the moment when Xerxes says, "You're bowing to me."
Yeah.
Right. Laugh.
Were the swings a part of the original design, or is that something that came?
They were a part of the original design, so, interesting, Carlin and I's first conversation after I read the play, was, I talked about the map, sort of giving a world where we could understand the magnitude of the journey. And then we started talking about conflict, physical conflict in the play and Greek tragedies, and how most of the time physical conflict takes place off stage and then we just hear about it. So we started brainstorming ideas of to create some conflict, and she came up with the idea of two swings that were sort of, I think originally her idea was that people would swing and sort of miss each other. That's why they're on a 90-degree. But you know, it turned into its own thing, which I think is actually better.
Yeah, I thought the interaction between Darius and Tessa at the end there, using the swing, was brilliant. I love that. It was like a door that they kind of get
Yeah.
through. She tries, right, to grasp that Darius, and it finally gets there, but oddly through a swing. So it takes on this whole new meaning. And it was only, I think, used maybe once, right, as a swing. I was very nervous
No,
about
there's several
the
times.
swing.
Several times.
But I thought it was great with the messenger's speech when he gets on.
When
Yes.
you, I thought you were going to hit your head. You were off on the way over, and you did.
Yeah.
Your hair was.
Yeah.
My hair, yeah,
I was thinking.
my hair gives it
That
an
was-
illusion that it's a lot closer.
When Thomas leaps through the swings, that's when I'm always sitting back there going, dear God, take care of him. He leaps through, and it's, yeah.
Somebody needs to look out for this.
But didn't you think also that the ropes, also, this is a maritime battle?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So it also carried some of that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great observation.
I felt the same way, that the ropes were about ships.
Yeah.
It was great.
Right.
Can I ask a question?
Well, Gail
I'm
has
sorry.
a question.
I just want to applaud the balance among the cast. It was so beautiful. And the way you worked together with an incredible balance. And then, of course, the Harold Tom, you came in. I mean, it was just so amazing to see the rhythm and balance. That was just beautiful.
We have really, really wonderful people, and I will tell all of you that sometimes you can be in a cast and there's one or two people, and sometimes you can be in a big cast and it's just a lot of, sometimes it just doesn't gel. But from the first day of all of us together, everybody in this cast was ready to work and ready to come together and ready to be an ensemble, which doesn't happen a lot. It's beautiful when it happens, and it made working and coming to rehearsal a pleasure every day. And because of the style that Carlin has as a director, it made it a joy, and every was full of laughter and discovery and good things.
I think this is, you asked how long? Yeah,
About 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Oh, sorry, Barnaby, you got it.
Well, it's kind of been answered. I mean, one of the things that I always marvel at is that when there's no suspense, you are meeting the kernel of the theatrical drama head on. You already know what happened. That's not the issue. And one of the things that, for example, I remember this essay that Schiller wrote, which I think is brilliant, about naive and sentimental poetry. He didn't know that what he called sentimental would be called romantic in a decade. But he says that in the romantic or the new modern sentimental poetry, the author will not get out of the way, so that we can actually see the event head on. And it seems to me that this is an example of a head-on confrontation with slaughter, with waste, with hubris, stupidity, and there's no room to wiggle out of it.
Yeah,
There's no sentimentality.
very true.
And I hope that everybody should see this play.
We just have 3 more performances.
I'm speaking
Tell
of,
people,
I'm speaking
yeah.
of the
In
Congress.
Maybe we'll send them a video. Send them a streaming video.
Aren't we lucky in Dallas to have such a serious?
A question up here? Oh.
I was looking out for you.
Well, okay, fine, I will ask it.
All right.
The ending, are we meant to pity Xerxes in this production? Because in the original, it's Xerxes in the chorus going back and forth, and that's the end.
Yeah.
And this ending was shocking to me.
What do you think?
Yeah.
And I did not pity Xerxes at all.
You're absolutely right.
The killing of Xerxes is very Euripidean.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting, but is a very different read of that play.
Yeah, that was Carl Lynn's, and along with the cast, collaborating with the cast, they brought that. And you know, in the original text, it just says they exit. But wow, what an exit! That's one way to exit.
That was Carlin's interpretation of him going home.
Yeah.
That was the going home.
To your point, though.
Was that decided at rehearsal that you would?
Yeah.
She reached out to Mac and I before rehearsals had started, and she said, "I'm seeing a world where Atossa kills Xerxes at the end, and you know, I'm just having this vision of her just covered in blood, and the guy who has screwed everything up doesn't just get away with it." So she said, "But I need buy-in from you guys, so what are your thoughts?" And both Mac and I were like, yeah. Obviously I wasn't covered in blood, but that was something that we did explore during the rehearsal process, and it didn't work.
You did in the light.
We didn't need it, you know.
Was it a mercy killing?
Yeah. Well, she kind of left that up to us. Carlin's not she's the kind of director who trusts her actors enough to say, you know, well, here's where I want you. How you get there is up to you. So it's a little bit different every night for me. I know tonight and generally it's a sacrifice. You know, Atossa's been told multiple times, she's heard, you know, atone. But for Xerxes to have to live with what he's done is a life of pain. He has said that, you know, he doesn't understand why he's the only one who's been left alive. So there is a merciful killing aspect to it. Yeah.
How do you see that as a fulfillment of Darius's request to her to use her voice to keep him from killing himself.
Well, he doesn't say use your voice to keep him from killing
Keep him
himself.
alive.
She said, yeah, he says, lead him to the crossroads of his own self-examination.
Yeah, so she cuts off the examination right away.
Mary, as usual.
You're done now, son. I think that when she says, my shattered son, I mean, she sees he's broken. And then furthermore, when they're doing the ritual, when they're finally supposed to be asking forgiveness, he's in no condition to ask forgiveness. I mean, he's broken. And, you know, we with modern psychology know that there's a way through that, but...
Treatments.
Huh?
Treatments.
I keep saying the phrase, it's worth noting, but again, it's worth noting that historically Xerxes was assassinated by the captain of his bodyguards. So and it was, you know, within, I'm not sure the time frame there, but it was well considered he was a problem. Although he did build many of them. He completed a lot of construction projects that his father Darius had started, so he was known for that, and you can see many of the ruins now that I suppose Xerxes was credited with, you know, managing the construction.
There's also a lot of references to, you know, keep him from self-annihilation, keep him from killing himself. There's a lot of keep him from killing himself. And I mean, in many religions, and I'm not going to say all because I certainly don't know, but I know in the religion that I was raised in, killing yourself, that's in the afterlife. Sorry, that's a big no.
What's the wages of killing your son?
What?
I said in the afterlife, what is the punishment for killing your son?
It's a good point, and I think that as a mother, she's willing to take that on if it'll spare him from the torture of killing himself. If he's been murdered, she's like, all right, give it to me, because that's what.
Wow, that's sacrifice.
What's lovely about Greek theater, too, is like, a lot of times it's talking about something bigger. Because Xerxes is Xerxes the character, but he's also Persia, you know? But then in our version here, the chorus, the Greek chorus is always commenting on how things are going, how things should be viewed. They turn away from him. They've left him, and in some ways, like, to me, I'm kind of like you in the end. I get to be an audience member, just watch the ending, but like, it always comes across to me that it's a way of saving Persia because of the hubris of Xerxes. If he's left in charge, we've already seen what's going to happen.
But also, you know, the army, the Persian army was made up of about, 300 tribes from Egypt all the way through the what is now Afghanistan and so on. They all joined forces against Greece, time and time again.
Including in some Greek cities.
I didn't know that. That's very interesting. But so that this hubris was like a collective determination to annihilate Greece, and it didn't work.
I would like to express appreciation. Out of this rich tapestry, the golden thread for me was the metamorphosis of Atossa. And following the thread of the feminine archetypes as she expressed the crone, also the maiden, and the mother, and just express appreciation for this ending, as she assumed the archetype of Ellen McLaughlin and was willing to put to death the lesser feminine roles for the greatest.
Man, I wish Carla could have heard you say that. Because that is one of the things that she was really working. So
Can you repeat that for those of us that didn't hear?
I said that for me, the golden thread in this tapestry was the metamorphosis of Atossa. how we got to witness her as she expressed the feminine archetypes from the crone and the maiden and the mother, and then in the final moment assumed the High Queen that was willing to put to death a lesser version of herself for the future that was needed. So.
Did the costumes have the knife before the decision?
What's that?
Did your costumes have the knife on the belt before this decision?
Well, the decision was made before rehearsal started, so yeah.
On that note, I want to thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.